How do you know a politician is lying? His lips are moving. Donald Trump sold himself as the wrecking ball, the outsider, the guy who would finally break the system. He told his voters he wasn't like the rest. He wasn't owned, he wasn't compromised, and above all, he wasn't going to start new wars or feed the military-industrial machine. And for years, his critics said that's a con. They said he was lying. They said it was all branding. Back then, those accusations sounded exaggerated, partisan, even unfair. But now, with the noise around Iran, regime change, and Trump's increasingly familiar strongman posturing on the world stage, those old accusations don't sound crazy anymore. They sound vindicated. Because the question isn't whether Trump talks differently, it's whether he governs differently. And right now, the answer looks uncomfortably familiar. Let's be honest about something. For a long time, the Trump is a con man line was weak. It was lazy. Critics threw it out constantly, often without evidence, as a kind of moral shorthand. Rich guy bad, populist fake, therefore con man. And many of those accusations were baseless. Trump didn't start new wars during his term. He talked about ending forever wars. He openly criticized NATO freeloading. He mocked neocon talking points that had dominated both parties for decades. That mattered to his base. People didn't vote for Trump because they thought he was polite or virtuous. They voted for him because he promised rupture. A break from regime change politics, endless defense spending, vague moral crusades that somehow always end in bombs and contracts. That was the deal. But here's the problem. A con doesn't fail immediately. A good con works by delaying the reveal. And what we're seeing now isn't Trump as an outsider, it's Trump as a familiar archetype. The tough guy, the chest thumper, the strong leader flirting with confrontation, escalation, and vague threats that sound suspiciously like every administration before him. When pressure campaigns start sounding like pretexts, when peace through strength starts requiring missile maps and carrier groups, when Iran starts being framed not as a problem to manage but a regime to break, that's not anti-establishment politics, that's the establishment playbook. And this is where the old accusations stop sounding hysterical and start sounding accurate. Here's what makes this worse with Trump than with anyone else. Bush voters were sold fear. Obama voters were sold hope. Biden voters were sold stability. Trump voters were sold rejection. They explicitly did not vote for new wars, regime change fantasies, military-industrial continuity. They voted against it. That's the betrayal. If Trump governs like everyone before him, then the only thing outsider about him was the branding. And that's what vindicates his critics. Not because they were always right, many weren't, but because the final pattern is emerging. A con man doesn't have to invent a new system. He just has to convince you he's the exception. And when the rhetoric changes, but the incentives stay the same, and the enemies look familiar, and the weapons contractors keep winning, at some point you have to ask, was this ever about draining the swamp? Or was it just another salesman telling people exactly what they wanted to hear? Because in the end, the oldest rule in politics still applies. How do you know a politician is lying? His lips are moving.